gig with Bollywood Brass Band tonight in London, so I just wouldn't have made it back. So with the amazing technology that we have now, it's really great that I can chat with you guys virtually. The second apology is that yesterday I had no voice at all, so today my voice is holding out, so hopefully I'm not going to lose my voice and we're going to keep on going. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute and show you a presentation, but just I'm a trumpet player. I've been a brass teacher for many years in schools. I used to live in London. I've just moved out to Kent a couple of years ago, but also taught Key Stage 2 music in primary schools. And I've been playing with the Bollywood Brass Band. It's actually our 30th anniversary year this year. And I've been there the whole time. So it's kind of been all along with my teaching. I've been playing with this particular band as well as others, but this band has become the main thing that I do musically. And I was going to say I'm not really a brass bander like you guys, but then I remembered that when I was at university, I did actually play with a brass band for a very short time. I was studying music at University of East Anglia in Norwich. And some of us were approached to come and play with the local, the Norwich Town Brass Band, I suppose, which was sponsored by Bernard Matthews, if you remember him, he of the turkeys, beautiful turkeys. And it just came back to me that we did one event for him in London, and we had to wear the Norfolk jackets and +4s. So that's all I can remember really about playing in a proper brass band. But I've been playing with the Bollywood Brass Band, as I said, for a long time. And yeah, so I'm going to share my screen, check that the video sound and everything is working, because I've got lots of videos to show you. So it's just check, share computer sound, and so that should all be working. So I'm going to talk to you about music and motivation. Important subject and close to all of our hearts, I'm sure. Let me get the next right. So there's the Bollywood Brass Band, very colourful. As I said, this is amazingly our 30th year. There I am, second in from my left in the red jacket. And that is actually a photo of us in India, playing for an Indian wedding. So we are based on the Indian brass bands, which I'll mention in a second. So when we play it, so we play outside in the street, or we can play on stage. And when we play on stage, we have projections of the original movies behind us, and they sort of sync up to our sound. So we've had an amazing career, I suppose, still going, but we've performed all over Europe, and at the proms, Blue Peter proms, that was a particular highlight. We did the Millennium Eve at the Dome, and then we were asked to go to Delhi to play for a fashion show, which was one of the craziest things we've ever done. And then we started being asked to play for weddings in India. So that's the second craziest thing we've ever done. We played in Norway a few times and were commissioned to work with a singer from Pakistan at the Opera House. If you've heard of the WOMAD Festival, that's like but we used to say world music. We don't really call it world music anymore, but global music. It's a big festival in the summer. We played there a few times, and I led a big education project there a couple of years ago before lockdown. Venice Carnival, that was fun. Melas, which are Indian big sort of festivals and carnivals, and art centres, which we're doing a tour at the moment to celebrate our 30 years. So we're going to some art centres in the north next week. And yeah, so we started in a very small way, just playing for Diwali festivals, which it is now, in Hindu Festival of Light. And then we did our first CD, the one in sort of black and white, in 1999. As soon as you've done a sort of proper recording, you get asked to play sort of more festivals and stuff. So that kind of changed our trajectory, and we started developing the stage set. And from there, we did all these other CDs. The Carnatic ones have been the most recent ones, with a collaboration that we did with Jyotsna Srikanth, who's an incredible South Indian violin player. Oh, and there we are. So myself, Sarah plays the soprano saxophone, so she is the interloper in the brass band. It's brass and drums, myself and Steve on the trumpet. So we get to wear these great costumes. And yeah, so as I say, we've been to India a few times, not in the last couple of years, but before lockdown we did. And as I said, it's our 30th anniversary. We started off with these crazy costumes because we were kind of developed as a project of an outdoor arts company called Emergency Exit Arts. So we were wearing these big heavy coats because we were playing in Diwali. Because it was Diwali, we had these hats which were like lamps, the oil lamps that they wear that they light at Diwali because it's the festival of lights, and those flames at the top lit up. This is in front of Oslo Opera House actually in 2010 and then again in 2020. So we tried to stage the same picture, different costumes, a few more grey hairs. There we go. And I'm going to show you a little video here. This is some clips I put together to promote the tour, really. This is 30 seconds of a clip of when we played at Festival earlier this year. There we go. So that's what we sound like and look like when we're on stage. You may have seen some tour dates there. We're actually in South London tonight, then Bedford, Wigan, Halifax, Bury, and we're doing a schools project in Bradford at the end. So there will be time for questions about any of this at the end. So save up your questions. Yeah, so brass bands in India, when we started doing this, we were already playing in a sort of street band, which we'll see a picture of in a bit. And we played at an international street band festival in London. This is in 1992. And there was an Indian brass band from India playing there. I'd never heard of Indian brass bands. When I thought of Indian music, I thought sitar, tabla, classical music, that kind of thing. But these brass bands, of course, go back to the Raj as a product of colonialization. The British Army were in India. And the Indian men were in the British Army and learnt brass and wind instruments. They don't tend to have slide trombones. They have a lot of euphoniums and baritone horns, that kind of thing, and valve trombones as well. But this is the Jaya band. These are my photos from when we were playing for a wedding, and they were there as well. And these guys are incredible. They can play for hours. But it's also very seasonal work. So, wedding season is November to June when it's not so hot in India. When the guys are not doing the bands, they're probably doing other work, manual labour, perhaps working in fields, I don't know. So they have to kind of get their lips back in to do this intense period of work. They may not have brilliant sounding instruments. It's very hot. Tuning isn't great. So for many reasons, we've been asked to go and play for Indian weddings, mostly I think because people with more money than sense, they're mega rich, they can have what they want, so they can have a brass band from the UK. So anyway, if you want to ask me more about Indian weddings, it's fascinating and endless. So all along, I've been, at the same time, I've been a teacher in schools, been a brass peri, going around from school to school, and playing with the Bollywood Brass Band, and that got to be more and more as we went on over the years, as I've said. And I've always been thinking, what motivates children to continue learning? How do we get those kids to carry on? I've taught hundreds, maybe 1,000 children. How many of those have carried on? I don't know. How many of them may have given up and come back? I had a boy recently who kind of got to sort of grade 6, 7 when he was age 14, had a meltdown, gave it all up. And then because I kept in touch with his mum, he's actually come back to it, aged 18, 19, and just put himself through grade 8. So on the other hand, you never quite know whether they're going to come back to it. And only because I was still in touch with mum did I know, and actually went back and taught him. So anyway, what motivates us? And very first time I kind of used these slides, I was doing this actually in Norway, in Oslo. So I put a little map of the UK. I'm sure you guys know where Northampton is. That's where I grew up. So how does a girl from Northampton get to be in a professional brass band? And I'm not from a musical family. I'm not from a brass banding area. So some of you may well, I don't know if you sort of teach or do music full time, but this is my sort of typical journey from school. Had trumpet lessons at school, went to my Saturday morning music centre as part of the music service. joined the Northamptonshire Youth Orchestra and the Girls Brigade Band. I was in the Girls Brigade. That was the other thing that kept me going. Then I went on to study music at university, as I said, at UEA. Moved to London, didn't know what to do with myself really. I thought, yeah, I'm going to play an orchestra as well. No, that didn't really happen. So ended up through meeting people, playing in various bands, and ended up, as I said, with the Bollywood Brass Band. I was looking for a picture of Northampton Music School. It makes it look very moody and gothic. It was the 1970s, but it was in colour, I can assure you. So anyway, I found that picture, and it's actually, my dad went to the school when it was the primary school, but it was taken over by the music service. The next picture I'm only going to show you very, very briefly. Not sure whether it was a good idea to even put it in, but these are pictures of me in my Girls Brigade uniform. Very briefly, there, 1980s perm, let's get rid of that. And then carried on sort of wearing crazy costumes, playing in different bands. Now this one at the bottom, this is the street band, crocodile style. Those coats have got sort of long tails. And that's the band that developed, well, alongside, ended up being the Bollywood Brass Band, and there we are. And that's the kind of crazy costumes that we wore, as I mentioned, for Diwali. So that's how we started off in 92. And that's what we look like now. Few costumes are a bit more good looking costumes, and that's me at WOMAD in 2019, I think. Okay, so why we're here, back to music and motivation. So I'd been teaching, I've been a Perry for a long time, and then started teaching a lot of whole class instrumental tuition when it started back in, I don't know, 2005, I think I started doing it. I used to teach it in Greenwich in Southeast London, and teaching whole classes of children. It's a fantastic scheme. Well, what happens at the end of that year? So I don't know how aware you are of this, but every child should have access to having a year of free music lessons in primary school. A lot of times it happens in year 4, and the whole class learns together. A lot of people do whole class ukulele or djembe. That's very accessible. Whole class trumpet, fantastic. So I started doing that when it came out, and I was very interested in, what happens at the end of that year? Do the instruments just sort of get put back in the cupboard and then given to the next year 4? How do we encourage some of those children to want to carry on learning into year 5 and year 6 and join their local music centre and join all the bands or the brass bands or the orchestras, whatever? How do we keep them going? So this is a long-winded way of saying that I ended up doing a master's in music education, partly prompted by the fact that I was living and working in Greenwich. And as I'd been doing the Perry stuff, doing the whole class stuff, and then started doing that in a primary school where they asked me to teach classroom music as well, which I'd never really done before. So I went to Trinity Laban, which is based in Greenwich, and did a course called The Teaching Musician, which really sums up what I am. I'm a musician who teaches a teaching musician. So part of the course, I had to do a 10,000 word dissertation. But I decided, because I wanted to really focus on whole class ensemble tuition, WCET for short, I decided to write some music, because I decided, there's the very fancy schmancy dissertation title, Auditory Learning and Specially Composed Musical Repertoire for Key Stage 2, and its impact on progression and engagement. How do we get kids to engage with the music? How do we make progress? What does progress mean? And progression mean moving on, continuation. Auditory learning by ear. You don't need to read music to be able to play music. So I wrote specially composed musical repertoire because these were my sort of research questions. Does it work? Still a question which many people pose. Does this system work? And what makes a good lesson? If Ofsted were going to come in, or your head teacher was going to come and pop in and see you teaching, what really makes an outstanding lesson, and how do we get the children to continue and want to carry on playing? So I decided, of course, it is a repertoire. It's not just what you teach, but it's how you teach it. So what kind of repertoire works? What makes it work? How are we going to deliver that? And how do we keep all the children engaged? Because, as I'm sure we all know, if you give 30 children a trumpet or a clarinet, a trombone, a flute, they're not always going to be able to do it. not every child will get a sound out of the trumpet, and that's it. Okay, guys, you are on the trumpet for a whole year. So if you're not your instrument. I mean, I started life playing the guitar. Looking back, that was not my instrument. Trumpet was, and I took to it. But if you don't, and you're stuck with the trumpet all year, so how do you keep all children engaged? So I wanted to write repertoire that was engaging and had something for everyone to do. And how do we make progress? And what do we mean by progress? What are we measuring? So we could be measuring, quantity, the number of notes learned or grades passed, or more holistically, we could be measuring the quality of musical understanding. And so, this is all from my dissertation. I was thinking about, what do we mean by progress? It can be seen as a journey. Everyone's starting from the same point. Day one, here's your trumpet. By the end of the year, we're going to be here. But this kind of, this was my thing here of saying, okay, you have to, first of all, produce a sound. When you can produce a good sound, then we'll start using our fingers and our tongues to get some technique and different notes. Then we can start to pitch notes and do copybacks and melodies. And only then can we start to perform and play and improvise and compose. But I didn't want to see that as so much of a linear journey. I wanted to see it as a holistic pattern, really, of all this stuff can happen at once. As soon as you can produce a sound, you can be copying back, you can be practicing your fingering, your tonguing very simply in lesson one. Lesson one is like, okay, the trumpet's not this way up, it's this way up. But, after a few lessons, you can actually play a structured piece. You can pitch some notes, you can copy back. If even you can only play 2 notes, you can play a tune that's interesting, you can learn melodies and structures, and you can start to improvise and compose and make up your own music. So there's sort of 3 measures going on here: vertical, from simple to complex, 1 note, 2 notes, 3 notes, a breadth of learning, different repertoire and styles. Very important that you're offering your children a massive variety of styles from different genres and cultural backgrounds. And then there's your conceptual learning, the quality of knowledge, the knowledge of music, the sort of depth of progress, your emotional approach and enjoyment of the music. So anyway, because I was doing my master's, I had to test it all properly and do an action research cycle. So I did my plan, I composed some music, and very importantly, I chose to do backing tracks with the music. So it's not just playing a melody on its own, it's part of it's a whole song with backing tracks. I taught myself GarageBand in order to be able to make the backing tracks. So wrote some music, took it along, tried out the repertoire in the lessons, got some data collection. Basically, did the children enjoy it? Did they find it easy? Asked them what they thought about it, reflected on their feedback, and then started again. Maybe alter what I'd done, write the next piece. So, they were my kids. They were my kids. Every time I see this photo, I really wished I'd asked them all to sit up straight before I took the photo. But that's reality. That's what it's like in schools. So I gave them all questionnaires and interviewed them, and also looked at what other teachers and other areas were doing as well. This is one of the tunes. I'm going to play this whole thing. You don't need to see the notation. It's 2 notes. So basically, after a few, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 weeks, you've done some other stuff, you can actually pretty much produce a note and you can play C and D. You can pretty much get C and D. If, of course, you're over pitching on a C, you might be getting a G or another C. If you're over pitching on a D, you'll be getting another G. So this tune, if you play G all the way through, this tune still works rather than C and D. It could just be G all the way through. So I designed it to sort of work. So anyway, let's listen to this tune. I did the wrong thing. I clicked on the link, so I'm just going to escape. One of the other tracks. What about this? There you go. Sorry about this. So all the tracks are available on the Warwick Music website. This is one of the things, of course, when your children are learning in whole class lessons, they don't get to take the instruments home. So I wanted to make sure that the tracks were available on the Warwick Music website, because I did get this published. And so I clicked in the wrong place there. So here's going to stop that there because I'm mindful of time. And so these notes here are the notes that are in the book, and I'm not sure if you can still see me, but I got the book published as I said, and oh yeah, well, sorry, yeah, these are the notes. So every tune has got the notation for the teacher, not for the children, for the teacher, and the notes. So this gives you the ideas of stuff you can do with the children. And you can see that section where I stopped it there is that section with the improvising and answering phrase. You only know 2 notes or 1 note, but you can still improvise and play along with the track. And one of the feedback things that I got from the kids was, hey miss, I can play a whole song, you know, it sounds like a real song, sounds like real music, I'm using authentic sounds. And even with 2 notes, you're learning when to play, when not to play, you're learning to improvise, you're learning to listen, you're learning about music from the culture, our Indian culture, and Indian instruments as well. So that was the sort of concept for all the pieces. Here's another piece. Okay, so briefly, you can see Demi really liked that tune. Hey miss, this is sick. That's just for learning 4 notes. So we've by the time you've learned C, D, then E, then F, that's a tune for practicing your 4 notes in a scale. And so the kids really like doing that because it's music they can relate to. So I ended up writing 12 pieces, 12 or 13 pieces in various styles of music that I know that I've played in Bhangra music, Latin, I used to play in a salsa band, Middle Eastern, a blues, and teaching notes like I showed you a minute ago, and fun and lively music. And, you know, even with the haze in the Bhangra tune, if the kids can't really move their fingers in time or whatever, they could sing it. Every tune's got lyrics to learn the tune. You can sing, you can dance, you can shout. So that was the idea, really. Differentiation accounted for with easier parts, high and low parts as well, and every tune with improvisation and copyback sessions. I think it's so important to get people improvising when you're learning. I was never taught to improvise when I was at school, and you know, I do improvise now, but it's something I've had to work on. And the first time I was asked to do a trumpet solo, I was like, whoa, what do you mean? I've never, you know, I wasn't confident. And it's really something that we should do when children are young. Simple and fun lyrics so that you can sing the song, get the song in your head. If I was there in person and we all had our instruments, you would be playing this and you would all be improvising and you'd all be doing some Bhangra dancing. So I'm not there, so lucky you. And designed to be taught orally, so you could use the notation with the children, but you don't need to, which means you can, of course, use syncopation in the music and not worry about reading it. So briefly, this is the data collection. The blue is the positive. So the kids enjoyed their lessons. They liked the music. I was trying to get, is this the kind of, is it the music that makes you want to carry on? And there was a really positive response about carrying on. Not all of them could carry on, of course, because then they had to pay for lessons unless they were free school dinners. But I managed to, get more children in that school to carry on than the year before. And yay, got it published. So it is available, and due to demand as well, it's published for other keys and also for like strings and violin recorders. So that is available. And that helped me to, carry on doing that kind of thing. So I've had other tunes, other collections and stuff published by Warwick Music. Just recently got this Just Do It, which is a book of solos, which I got one of my pupils to check out all the tunes and actually made some contributions. And then the Three Dances solo bass trombone, which was commissioned by Jonathan Warburton, asked me to write a piece for him. So that's come out recently. And then I was approached earlier this year to write some original pieces in a Bollywood style. So that's something I'm doing more and more, composing and trying to, compose interesting music for beginners. And then I managed to get an actual book published, which I was really pleased about, a small booklet by Collins Music, using all the ideas, 50 inspiring ideas, gathered from my dissertation. So quickly, because I can see I'm talking a lot, Bollywood Brass Academy. So I brought all of that kind of research and all that thinking to the Bollywood Brass Band, and we really started to pick up on our education work. And I can see that I've been talking too much, so you can briefly see. So we've done arrangements of Bollywood songs for brass band, We've played at the Lichfield Festival. The Foden's band played some of our music. Some National Youth Brass Band and some of the Northern Brass Bands have worked with us as well. So we've created repertoire. We do workshops and performances, and some tutor books as well, and the Indian drum. And then most recently, in the last year or so, we got some funding from the Arts Council, and this is really the key: to take a classic Bollywood song and write it at 3 levels. A very easy 3 to 4 note level based on the stuff I just showed you, taught by it, with a backing track so the tracks can be used in the classroom, and then a version of the same tune but a bit harder for intermediate band, and then the actual sort of pro version for us or for brass band. So I'm just and a video guide as well, and tutorials. This is all on our Bollywood Brass Academy website. So I'm going to show you this film. My name's Kay, and I play the trumpet with the Bollywood Brass Band, and I also lead on all their education work. So this project, I'm really excited. It's just to celebrate the 70th anniversary of Indian independence. We take a popular song from the independence era or just after, and children play a really simple version of it, and then we go to the music centre and they play a more sophisticated version of it, and then they can play it with the Bollywood Brass Band and really feel like they're achieving something.
Today we've been doing a workshop with Bollywood Brass Band, and we've been doing a song called Dum Marrow Dum. I learned some new songs that I didn't know and some new rhythms. I like Bollywood music because it keeps switching up all the different kind of instruments, and I didn't know like some instruments that I learned today.
My heart was like vibrating to the beat, and then when I put my hand on the floor, all I could feel was vibrating.
Today I think we really worked on improving their listening skills. So learning how to rehearse, actually, learning how to listen and respond, copying notes, listening to teachers, and learning the structure of music, knowing when to play and when to stop. And we started off by giving them a really loud shh and rest, and we took the shush away and did it in our heads, and when we did the performance, no one played on that rest, so they really worked on that and they improved it, and they enjoyed getting each other to really focus on that.
I think it will help me as now I know like most of the keys and vowels, and I know how to like loosen and tighten my lips when I need to.
It's been very fun and exciting because they have taught us a lot about the instrument and notes.
It was like the first time I heard a band playing live. It inspired me to play music a lot.
A lot of children in Slough won't have heard trumpets, brass instruments, maybe even the drums at all. So actually raising awareness of performance is absolutely great. And then if those children can actually get to play their own instruments with professional musicians, I mean, that's just on another level. That's brilliant for them. So inspiring for them to play alongside a professional band.
Okay, there you go. That kind of sums it up more than me trying to say it. And there's some quotes there. And just for children to get to play with adults or professional musicians, you know, any kind of band, it's amazing, isn't it, to be on a stage playing with professional musicians. I was just going to quickly show you this. This project was well delayed by lockdown. So we made a lockdown video of this particular Bollywood song, and then Birmingham Services for Education, who we ended up working with live, but they asked us to get their children involved in that. I'm going to show you very briefly this Bollywood song from a film from the 1970s, fantastic film called Sholay. This is the original. I'm going to move on. Is that video 6 minutes? You know, the film's 3 hours. Fantastic film though, and the guy who just stood up is Amitabh Bachchan, who's like one of the most famous Bollywood actors in the entire world. So that tune I've reduced to 3 or 4 notes for the Bollywood project. I've got no voice today, so I'm not going to try and sing it. But this is the backing track, if it works. Get the idea of how the tune is still there, but it's what the kids play or beginners play is reduced to 3 or 4 notes. Then it's got the hey hey heys in as well. Now that's me in the middle, surrounded by children in the Bollywood Brass. So Bollywood Brass Band made a lockdown video of us playing our tune during lockdown, and then we gave the children of Birmingham the easy parts, and their tutors taught it to them. We did a CPD session for the tutors. The kids learnt their simple parts at home. They all videoed themselves and gave it back to Birmingham, and then Birmingham actually, I think, won an award for all their digital work during lockdown. They put this video together. So let's watch this. So very briefly, because I know I'm going to run over if I allow myself. So we've got a few of these tunes on our website, which I'll show you in a sec, and I've made a tutorial video of me doing all the fingering. If you want to find out more about this, because we were funded by the Arts Council for this project, we've made all this repertoire available for free. So at the Bollywood Brass Academy website, if you go to resources, then there's 3 folders basically. First access or whole class arrangements, 3 to 5 notes, easy tunes with backing tracks. That's where you'll find that Ye Dosti song. You'll find another version of Ye Dosti in this one, and then there should be, hopefully, a version for brass band in this one. So you can, and other tunes as well. This is just an image, but have a look on our website, check out the resources. But of course, then we'd love to work with more actual brass bands or with your youth bands. And as part of our first project, we worked with the Middleton Youth Band, and I went in and conducted some of our easy tunes or easy arrangements for them. And then we all performed together. And there's a picture of us, it's Birmingham Symphony Hall, and some of the kids where we performed alongside them. And that's Charlton Street Camp, the South Indian violinist. Yay! And I'm not going to have time for that one, but that's it, really. I'm going to stop sharing. And thank you very much for listening. If anyone's got any questions, I'll be glad to answer. Otherwise, we're almost at time.